Hey there, Laker fans. Welcome to another episode of Lakers Detailed. I am your host, Vinay, with my co host, Raj. Raj, it has been another preseason game against the Milwaukee Bucks for the Lakers. We've
Mhm.
had some Laker news, not really major news, but some Laker news. Dwight Howard getting a podcast interview with Jeannie Buss, which I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw the clip of him begging to get back on the Lakers, which was an
Yeah.
interesting thing. Some news about Nick Richards possibly being a person of interest, and of course, Rob, I think openly saying that the Lakers Shams now in his new role. Congratulations to Shams being the face of ESPN's news breaking.
Yep.
Immediately comes out and breaks news about the Lakers and Rob Pelinka looking for basically a real big. And so that's been sort of the news that's been going on so far. I would imagine we'll do some preseason talk and whatnot. I want to shout out one person. I want to shout out um, Eric Pincus, who is a senior writer for Bleacher Report, who asked a really great question in one of the pressers to JJ Redick about whether the Lakers need a traditional big, and JJ gave like this very funny answer to him. He like asked a question back to
Right.
Eric
Yeah.
to basically clarify what he was saying. But I think JJ knew what he was talking about. And I think later it was sort of mentioned that Rob clarified to Eric that he was the Lakers are looking into it. I would like to give him credit for that statement even coming out via Shams that the Lakers were interested in
Mm.
looking at another big, because I don't think that would have come out if and he's a really smart guy, great writer. A lot of people give him crap for some of his trade ideas, but
Yeah.
he's got to come up with some. But I would like to give him credit for that because I don't think we get that statement from Shams if he doesn't ask that question out loud. But yeah, Raj, how have you been? And where do you want to go with these Laker conversations?
Yeah, I'm good. First off, it's fun because I really don't follow the other sports, but we have the playoff baseball going on.
Yes, yeah,
And they
yes,
had a game today at 1 p.m., which I was not able to tune into, which I think was a good thing because that
yeah.
I think
We got
they
we got
got
our butts kicked.
obliterated. Yeah,
Yeah,
obliterated early. But yeah, baseball has been fun to kind of follow, especially when you live around here, right? You can kind of attach yourself to any team that is part of it. It's funny today because like I go to the gym and I go to the gym pretty early. I go like at 5, 6 in the morning. You can always tell when a team is doing well because like the jerseys start like really popping up. So now like Dodger jerseys are in full
yeah.
force like at the gym. That's been fun. We've had like 4 days with no basketball. So I think I checked the calendar. This is the last stretch of like no Lakers basketball for 4 days
Yeah.
until May or until the All-Star break. Yeah, I'm excited to get started. Shout out to Eric Pincus. His pieces always come out in kind of a I'm not saying this will happen, but I can like right, like, like, read between the lines a little bit. The money always works, right? Because it's Eric Pincus, so the money's
Yes.
always gonna be correct. You don't have to throw it into your trade machine. The people who do this, they can kind of read Eric's work and kind of, read between the lines of maybe
Yeah.
this is something he's heard, whispers around the league, which is really cool. Yeah, and that question was legit, obviously, from the day it was asked. I mean, it was
Yeah.
a traditional center, which JJ used to take the opportunity to uplift AD, which I think is probably the media train savvy way to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned Nick Richards. It's funny, we don't have to talk about this right now, but I'm watching the Clippers play the Mavs, and they have another Charlotte guy that center that's actually playing pretty well, and Kai Jones, and that's a kind of
Yeah.
interesting guy as well. Interesting person just in general, but like absolute freak athlete. And I guess teams are Vinay just gonna steal talent from Charlotte. Is this how this works? We just
Well,
take the pool out from
you know
those
what?
teams.
I've always had this theory that there are certain franchises and certain GMs that are good at identifying specific types of talent, and
Hmm.
Kupchak is still the one. I think Mitch is still over there in Charlotte,
Oh
and
yeah,
we know Mitch was part of one of the guys who helped draft Andrew Bynum. I think he has an eye for good centers, like good bigs. He can kind of evaluate them. I don't know if it's him or if it's somebody who's on the staff, but I mean, he's got Mark Williams, Nick Richards, and Kai Jones. Kai
yeah.
Jones now obviously with the Clippers. Those are three pretty good centers that have. We'll see how Kai pans out, but three first, pretty good centers that have made it in that position. So like my thing is like, if you can, if I was like a GM that was like trying to like scout who I could steal from other teams, like I'd be trying to steal bigs from Charlotte because Charlotte seems to find them all the time. So yeah, it's really interesting to see that. Rod, we mocked. I proposed a trade to you about a month ago that
Right.
involved, I think, D'Lo, plus some minimum for Grant Williams, Nick Richards, and Trey Mann, and like the sneaky steal was going to be actually Trey Mann, and I think that's
Right.
going to be gone now because I think Charlotte's found out how fun of a player he is. So that's
Really
probably not
quickly,
going to happen.
is he the player that people are calling Allen Iverson? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is that him? Okay, so
yeah, yeah,
I'm seeing these videos all over, and they're like,
yeah.
yeah, he looks just like Allen Iverson, and I haven't tuned into
He's
Charlotte basketball yet. I'm like, who are they talking about?
yeah.
Some of I think
He's
that's
he's
funny.
he's wearing the he has like he has the like unorthodox. It's not even unorthodox. Not the right word, but he plays like a hooper. He plays like a guy who's just played basketball his whole life. Like
Hmm.
it's not like all disciplined, one dribble pull up. I needed like all set shots and all that sort of stuff. He's very organic in the way he plays. Is a nice way to put it. But yeah, Trey Mann I watched him in OKC and I was like, oh, this kid's pretty good, but he's kind of stuck behind a lot of guys, and I don't know if Sam Presti will take care of him like that. And so, I hope he's successful there. But yeah, Nick Richards has gotten linked to the Lakers now too, so it'll be interesting to see if that trade comes to fruition.
Yeah,
Go for it.
these reports, it's just I don't know. It's like when your homework was due 7 weeks
For
ago. You
sure.
know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, you're turning this in now for some points. I guess
Yeah.
I don't know. These type of reports don't really hit the same to me. And I get it. Shams like has to report something. And it's funny watching him just fill right into Woj's role on
Yeah.
every TV show. Like he was there the whole time. They just plug and play kind of. Woj got subbed out, and Shams like, all right, I guess I'm checking in. Puts on the ESPN jersey and like
Yeah.
gets get right to work. Really quick, last thing on Charlotte, I forgot. I was also watching like PJ Washington is also in this game. It's just
Yeah.
another guy that Charlotte went out. So there's these players around the league. Lonzo Ball is returning, I believe, pretty soon
Yeah.
here, right? So like all these type of players around the league. And but Vinay, we're here to talk about a team that stayed the same
Yes.
as it did. So you were out at we didn't even get to talk about this live. But I don't know if you want to share anything. You had a basketball tournament
Yes.
this
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah. We didn't do it. We didn't do our small talk. My small talk. I'm extremely exhausted from the weekend. I went to Phoenix to play in a South Asian basketball tournament. Anybody who's in the Discord, all that sort of stuff that knows me, I play basketball like twice a week with a bunch of friends, 2 different groups, and I play in like 1 to 3 tournaments throughout the entire year with like the same group of friends. It was very cool. It was called the Bukta Classic. They host an annual tournament every year. There's Punjabis, there's Gujaratis, there's South Indian folks that show up. They come with their own teams. Very competitive players that show up. There are guys who are college basketball players, former pros, former overseas players, that sort of thing. And I'm physically exhausted because we played against a couple teams that were like they had like 6'6" centers and 6'7" centers, and it's just physically exhausting. But I do want to shout out one team that was out there. There's a team by the name of 13th Battalion. They're from Vancouver, Canada. Raj,
Mm.
these are the nicest dudes I have ever played against in my life. Like the scorekeeper was getting the score wrong in one of the games, and they were actually helping us tell the scorekeeper that they got the score wrong and that the game should be tied. Like they didn't give us enough points. And I
Oh
was like,
wow.
these are the nicest dudes I've ever played with. They're super nice after the game. And usually, there's a little bit of competitive juice at the end of
Right.
it. You're not really being cool with each other, but shout out to those guys, dude, because they were super nice. But Saturday, Sunday tournament, we lost in the semifinal to the team that eventually ended up winning the tournament altogether. But it was good times, man. It was good stuff. What was going on with you over the past weekend?
Nothing much, man. All my family's in the East Coast, so I've been staying home watching the playoffs,
Nice.
watching the baseball and
Dodgers
all that
baseball,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't do that for a full year, but there's no way I could watch like games like that. But
Dude, the game 5, whatever it was at home, I was stressed out, bro. I was just like, I hope the Dodgers don't lose this because I know so many Laker fans are Dodger fans, and
mhm.
you could argue the Dodger fan base is even bigger than the Laker fan base in LA. And like, I felt like the Dodger fans really, really deserve to see them not lose to the Padres.
Yeah,
So like, and so it was cool. Even the
I,
game in
I
San
like
Diego, game 2 or game 3, the one that we won over there, that
right.
was amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's crazy how like in sports, it doesn't matter what sport it is. Like when there's animosity,
Oh yeah,
it kind of kicks up everything, right? So like we were watching the baseball game, and then we had the Knicks in this incident, which is like a super fun. It's supposed to be just like a fun little preseason game, and all of a sudden it turns into Dante DiVincenzo versus like Jalen Brunson's dad, which is like the most random rivalry, but it just makes
Yeah.
that preseason game 100 times more fun.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it's fun watching people hate each other in sports.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's good stuff. But yeah, yeah. Let's talk about some Lakers basketball. We had the game against the Bucks.
Mm,
Um, all of our starters, most of our guys, I think a few of our guys were on minutes restrictions and whatnot. Guys were playing in the first half, and then we emptied the bench. Saw a bunch of new guys
mm.
come into the second half. Uh, we have 3 games this week, Raj: Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So we'll get more of an idea of what the preseason basketball looks like. But what's coming to your mind through the games that we've seen so far
Yeah.
about the team? What's standing out?
Well, I want to start with this Milwaukee game, and I'll push this to you real quick.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting. This was our first look, Vinay, at Max Christie starting.
Yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't for the guard that I think a lot of people would like him to start for. Austin was
Mhm.
hurt, and I think he spoke today that he's still not 100% on, I believe, his ankle. But in any case, we got to look at Max Christie with the starters.
Mhm.
Thought that was an interesting look. I liked it a lot against the Bucks team that's not too physical at their guard position, but I think Max added like a lot of athleticism to like our floor. He raised our athletic floor to a point where like it really stood out, right? Like you had 4 dudes now on the floor that all kind of are super athletic at their position with
Yeah.
like Max, LeBron, AD, and Rui, all very physically, powered at their position. I don't think Max is starting anytime soon. I don't think
Mhm.
Austin or D'Lo are going to the bench. That lineup, by the way, did not play a single minute last year, which I'm pretty surprised at.
Mhm.
They clocked 0 minutes for the year. I don't know. I thought that was an interesting look. Did you see anything from that? Max as a starter. I know you only I think you said you only watched the first half. That
Yeah.
you only played the first half. But Max as a starter, I think that like alleviated a lot of like the defensive concerns. He was able
Yeah.
to throw him on Dame, 2-hand rebounds as always, as a cutter as well. I thought Max kind of gave us a little bit of juice and pop. I know you've been a proponent of that more for the D'Lo, I think, side of it, where you can
Yeah.
kind of start Max for D'Lo. But did you see anything there that like, man, that something you saw that maybe can use down the line as Max with that starting group?
Yeah, no, I think the stuff about Max personally as a player and just his basketball personality, like it always shines when it's next when he's in a starting group like that, where that has a lot of offensive guys already on it. Him being able to just kind of step in and just do what he does, not be asked to do more than that, is
Yeah.
always super super helpful. And I think there was plays where I want to say there was a play where he kind of jumped a pass or he like kind of
Mhm.
broke up a just routine sort of swing around and stuff like that. He kind of jumped the passing lane and created a turnover. But just he was just disruptive. And I think the way you explained it is right. Like the athleticism jump of that lineup is very noticeable when he's on the floor with that team, and you almost feel less less concerned about the defensive ability of the backcourt when he's on the floor because he's getting a dedicated assignment. I think Dame got hurt for at the start of the game. He like bumped knees or he got like
Yeah.
so or he turned his own ankle or something like that. So, and then he ended up coming back later. But like, yeah, putting him on Dame and then having him chase Dame around or go around screens and stuff like that, while D'Lo or Austin in that role can focus on the other end because they had Gary Trent Jr. guarding the guy on the other end. Like that stuff kind of matters. But yeah, I'm with you, dude. I think the bump that you get athletically with that group, the fact that he's crashing the glass, like
Yeah.
our guards are not good rebounding guards. Like I would imagine JJ has wanted us to be a better rebounding team from that position too as well. The fact that he naturally likes to crash the glass from that position is kind of a big deal. And so I like it. But I think there is a learning curve, Raj. I think the offense
Mm.
does take a little bit of a hit, like with him there. You don't get the same creation that you would get with Austin and D'Lo. But I do think it's worth the trade off of having somebody who's better
Yeah.
defensively in that position.
That's what I was gonna ask. Is that a necessary trade-off, you think, for this team? Like I'm watching them, right? And I think, D'Lo and Austin obviously do it in their own ways, but there's a lot of, I think you spoke about how there's a lot of like repetitive talents in our
Yeah,
starting lineup, and I think those two are kind of the picture of it. And this kind of goes with the wording of wanting Austin more on ball and having more like on ball opportunities. But I mean, I don't care how much you take them off, you start with D'Lo and LeBron James, those dudes are gonna have the ball for 20-25% of the time. I
Yeah.
don't know. I think it's a conversation. Like I don't think it'll happen now. I think wins and losses will kind of determine it. I don't know, Vinay. I was not a high proponent of it, but like seeing it, in flesh and form, I think it's an interesting look that we can at least go to. Or I'd like to see Max at least get more minutes with the starters, right? Like I'd like to see a way if we can kind of stagger minutes to where he plays with them at least.
Yeah.
Because I think it just puts a lot off of LeBron's, plate. It takes some off of AD's plate as a rebounder. Yeah, I think it's crazy. Max is 2 years younger than Dalton. Did you know that? Like just like
Oh, yeah, I mean, I knew he was young. I knew he was still pretty young because we
yeah,
drafted him when he was like 18 or 19, like right when he turned 19 or something. So,
right.
but I will say this, Raj. I think a lot has been made about like how good the Lakers' offenses look structurally, like the play
Mm,
calling, and I know all
yeah,
the coaches portion of Lakers Twitter has been, very excited about stuff like that. But I think I've said it on this pod before. I'm not concerned about their offense. I think it's very hard to not have a good, not have like a top 10 offense when Braun, even at this level, is on your team. Not saying that he fixes everything, but he's just that talented of a guy. I do like all the offensive motion. Like it seems like Braun is getting all of his points off of like early action stuff, just going
yep,
early into his ISOs, not wasting time, not pounding the rock, not holding it for threes, that sort of thing. So I think that stuff has been really good structurally. But the defense is like that Bucks game, like Giannis is still going, and Giannis is Giannis. Like we can't act as if he's like some random guy. But our transition defense still wasn't like great in the
yeah,
first half of that game. And I think stuff like I'll ask you this question: if the transition defense isn't better, right?
mm,
If the defense doesn't look better, and remember, I think I posted this on Twitter. The Lakers offense was like number 2 when they switched Rui, made Rui a permanent starter under Darvin Ham's regime, and it like cratered to like the 19th best or 19th worst defense when they ran that starting lineup. So it was a really extremely good offense, really not good, below average defense. If that defense doesn't come up, if you
mm.
don't see them cleaning up the stuff that they did before, do you think that they might try to do something to fix that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny because I think that defense is a foot speed problem. Like
Mhm.
I think like Rui, D'Lo, and Austin, to be honest, are all like they have foot speed issues, and I think
Mhm.
LeBron in the regular season also has foot speed issues,
Mhm.
which is like I've been a proponent of Vando starting. Even with the backcourt that we have, I've been asking for more defensive plays. It's funny because Renee, I think a guy that a lot of us, and I still think he's going to be out of the rotation, but it's very clear like he's not far out of it. Was JJ keeps playing Cam Reddish, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Interesting.
so I think most Laker fans believe they've gotten off Cam Reddish Island. You know what I mean? And JJ's like,
Yeah.
nope, we're taking a pit stop right back over here. And I think it shows you what it shows to. And I don't think JJ believes that Cam is like some amazing NBA player. I think I've had this conversation all summer. Renee, when you go to like, all right, who are our athletes on the roster, right? And like you get past AD, get past LeBron, it gets very quickly to Cam Reddish and like Max Christie. Like it gets very quickly to those guys. And I think JJ is trying to find athletes. And you're right, Giannis. It's funny because I appreciate Giannis. It's very clear LeBron and I think this isn't a bad thing, but it's very clear LeBron and AD wanted a very chill preseason game. Just took a long flight to Milwaukee. It's a preseason game, doesn't count. Let's kind of relax and get through this game. And Giannis is like, no, we're not doing that. I'm getting the rebound and I'm pushing in transition every time, and you have to
Yep.
defend me. And it kind of boosted everyone's kind of athletic, juices in a little bit, competitive nature. But yeah, I think it's an interesting way to look at it to like solve it. I think Darvin gets killed today still, Vinay, for starting Cam over Austin.
Yeah.
But that's when we started winning. Like, so like, you know what I mean? So like again, I'm not sure. I don't think that was a right decision, maybe from like a morale locker room standpoint. And obviously the
Yeah.
quotes that have come out, whether we feel that or not, it's very clear the team had a certain discretions with Darvin. Like there's
Yeah.
very clear there was a separation between ideas and what he was preaching. But the Cam Reddish for Austin argument doesn't work for me because that's when they started. Like that's when the
Yeah.
wins came. That's when you won the play-in tournament was with
Yeah.
Cam Reddish. So I think JG's gonna find himself in similar holes. I'm not saying he's gonna use the same shovel to get him out of it, but like there's a defensive issue here that has to be solved. I think Max Christie is an interesting way, and I don't know which guard you can sell this to. I feel
Well,
like
I don't think Raj. I don't think you can sell it to either guard. I don't think either
mm,
guard will be willing to come off the bench. I don't think D'Lo is going to do it, and I know for a fact Austin's not going to do it because Austin is on a bargain contract and he wants to get paid more than $12 million a year or $13 million a year, whatever he's getting right now.
sure.
And D'Lo is literally in a contract here, and he it would just not be smart for him to do that. What's the term I think that like from a perspective like somebody looking at him, oh, you're a six man, and we don't really have to pay you that much money. We don't have to pay you 20 million a year for a six man. So it's I don't think you could do it. Like it's a tough decision. I'd be curious to see if JJ could do it.
Let's do this really quickly because
Yeah.
it's October 14th, Vinay. I really don't care about those type of things right
Okay.
now. Let's pretend none of that exists.
Okay.
Let's do basketball wise.
Okay.
Which guard do you think makes more? To me, I'll answer for now. I'll let you go. I feel like this is a regular season versus playoffs question, right? And I think in the regular season, I think D'Lo's the guard that makes more sense for the starting lineup. He's a guard that can kind of he can kind of run his own unit more. You can give him a side of the floor and say operate there and kind of work around. I think in the playoffs, you want a guy that can leverage, LeBron's gravity, right? That attacks often already compromised defense. Guy who's elite, getting to the line, right? To me, that's Austin, and that's a tough. Again, I'm not saying these are conversations. I just putting that to the side for a bit. Do you agree with me on, like, I guess the guard that basketball wise that would come off the bench is Austin, and then just basketball wise, like, does that make sense to you? Or would you still kind of go with put D'Lo on the bench if
Yeah.
none of the politics?
Yeah. So take the politics out. I'd actually put D'Lo on the bench. So I'm in disagreement with you. So I would say the actual opposite, and it's because I think Austin functions better. I think Austin's ability to score the ball, the breadth of his ability to score the ball,
The variety.
on ball, off ball, from three, from mid range, at the rim, is better for the starting lineup than what D'Lo's skill is, which is he's still not that great of a rim attacker. A little bit more methodical, a little bit more herky jerky. Has to dominate the possession of that ball a lot more. Like his decision making isn't quick. It's not D'Lo catches it and boom, he's going. Like if he's shooting the ball, just like catch and shoot, then for sure he's lightning fast. But that he's not like that. Austin is certainly willing to be a better defender, like willing to take on some defensive tasks that we know that D'Lo's not capable of doing. And I think D'Lo would actually benefit from being separated from the group because then he could really dominate that second unit with AD. Like when Braun comes out and D'Lo comes in, now D'Lo just gets to run the show, and he is a very good playmaker for the team when he gets to run the show. But he really needs to be able to run the show for it to work. So I'm the opposite actually. I think using Austin as sort of a 3-level scorer, alternate ball handler to LeBron, which again, like this is that thing that I was saying before that like if you have LeBron on the floor and you're trying to maximize the usage of everybody on the floor, why would you not have the ball in LeBron's hands first? Like, and then the next guy is obviously AD is the next guy because you're going to try and run plays for him. And then you have Rui on the floor too as well, so you want a guy who can play off of all of those guys. So I would say the opposite. I would put D'Lo. I'd bring D'Lo off the bench, and I would just let him dominate a second unit. Like let him do what he wants to do with that second unit.
Yeah. I guess like to your point, of course, like look, if you want to maximize guys, you would have the ball in LeBron's hands. I'm just going off what the wording is, and it's very clear they want to minimize the miles that LeBron uses even when he's on the floor, and that's kind of unprecedented territory, right? No star has really had that kind of load managing in games, which obviously I think Austin's a really good on-ball player, but I think he's an elite connective tissue player. Like I think that dude is elite at all the other stuff. And maybe like it's very hard. Like maybe you don't get all that connective tissue stuff if you try to throw him into this role of being a on-ball player. I think it's an interesting conversation. I know I told you to throw politics away. I guess I just have a hard time seeing D'Lo coming off. I can't even my brain can't even envision D'Lo off the bench.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Austin would accept it in because I think that was his main gripe with Darvin. I'm sure was
I mean,
being
I
benched.
think D'Lo and Darvin had some. From what I heard, not to get into that topic again, Darvin had some issues. The players on the team weren't sure about his basketball acumen. Like we know which players had some issues with his basketball acumen, but I'm pretty sure he lost the locker room when he benched D'Lo and Austin. And
Mm,
you don't have to read very hard between the lines to know who was giving the quotes out to the media folks about him and like how it lined up with the timeline of when those guys got benched and stuff like that. And I understand it's basketball is a business. Money is on the line for these guys too as well. So I understand.
of course.
Even for a guy like Max Christie, who was maybe thinking he
Oh
could get a
yeah.
bigger payday if he gets more minutes, losing minutes to Cam Reddish last year, that sort of thing too as well. So you presented a nice idea, right, Roger? You presented a scenario, no politics. You said D'Lo for the regular season, but Austin for the playoffs,
Mm,
where Braun
yeah.
is going to be more ball. But does that make sense to do? Does it make sense to just play one way with a specific lineup for the
Sure.
regular season and then switch to it? Wouldn't it make more sense? That would be my common sense argument. Wouldn't it make more sense to run with what you think is going to carry over into the playoffs?
Uh,
Is it
I,
important to do that?
I guess that's fair. I think you're going to be switching over anyway. Like there's going
Mhm.
to be a huge right. Like I think the jump is coming no matter what. So I'm trying to get as many wins as
Mhm.
possible now. Right. I'm trying to bank wins. And so I understand from your perspective. Yeah, we probably should. I think there's a way to stagger lineups and get
For sure.
units into the rotation where you kind of see things. I want to see Vando with that unit, right? I think we
Oh
should
yeah.
be experimenting and see how that looks. I think both of us have. I think Rui's looked okay. Again, Rui feels like he's unnecessary is not the right word. It just he feels like a cherry on top of a sundae that's already created, right? Like
Yeah.
Rui scoring just feels like it's additive to what we're doing. But yeah, no,
Did he
I
look better in the Bucks game?
what was that?
Did he look better to you in the Bucks game?
Yeah, I think Rui, not to make this a whole Rui thing, but like I think Rui benefits the most from LeBron and AD playing, in my opinion. Like
Mhm.
this difference between how Rui looks when both of those guys, and obviously this will be for anyone for stars, but like how Rui looks when both of those guys sit, or even LeBron sits versus when both of those guys play. It's a math game, right? So, for example, in Milwaukee, they had Giannis on AD, right? So that takes away a Rui matchup.
Mhm.
So that forced Brooke Lopez to guard Rui, right?
Mhm.
Right? Like because who's the other big that's left, and Rui was able to beat Lopez with foot speed and
Mhm.
then get shots over him right in his mid range, and Rui was like having his swagger going. Yeah, I think he looked better in that game, but I think that's a good point that like you should be running what you're going to run in the playoffs. I think we're in such a unique, unprecedented territory where like hey, let's like try and get LeBron and AD as healthy. Well, obviously, I think AD is still a 30-year-old in his prime, but like let's try to get LeBron to the playoffs in as much of a LeBron piece as possible.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering like what the route is to that. But
Yeah.
I think that's a good point that like you probably should run what you can. I watch this team and they're so athletically deficient at like the guard position.
Yeah.
And I think there's solutions needed there.
Yeah. I mean, all in the end of it, like at the end of it, like, I mean, in basketball, it's like a tried and true thing. There has to be a much higher baseline, a much higher floor of athleticism out of your players in order to be a good defensive group. It's not just effort. Like you have to have the ability to do it. And a lot of it has to do with are you athletically capable of getting through screens, cutting off lanes, that sort of thing. So it'll be. I don't think it's an easy issue thing to figure out. And I think we're probably both still in the same boat that a consolidation trade where that kind of frees up the minutes and cuts down on some of the guards that we have would probably help us. Speaking of guards, Raj, Gabe Vincent has
That
looked
was
pretty
that was
good.
that was next on my list,
Yeah,
actually. I was gonna ask
Gabe,
you. Yes.
Gabe Vincent has looked pretty good. The Lakers are not using him as strictly a catch and shoot guy. They're letting him run a little bit of pick and roll stuff, having him come off of cuts. I feel like he's been a beneficiary of that off ball movement and on ball movement
Yeah.
that AJ's been running. Talk to me about Gabe Vincent, dude. Do we got him back? Is this the Gabe that we want? The
You
Gabe that we need?
it's funny. Did you get to at least watch the highlights of the Milwaukee game? Like the whole did you watch the like full highlights
Yeah,
of
yeah,
our
yeah, yeah. I
comeback
saw the
win?
second half
Okay.
highlights. I watched the
Okay.
full first half though.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we went on a 20-0 run,
yeah.
right? And the guy who led the charge was this guy named Quincy Olivari, right?
Yeah,
Olivari. I hope I
Oliver,
pronounced that
yeah.
correctly. Absolute bucket. Like averaged 20 a game in college on like put up 7 threes and put up like 45% from three.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm so sad because he's 6'2", right? Like so like if this guy was like 6'6", 6'7", he could probably have and that's a lot of guys, right? I'm
He'd
sure. But
probably be
like
like a first round pick though, honestly, if he was. Yeah.
sure, but I'm just saying even on the context of this team, like we have so many guards already, and so like as a South Bay truther and a guy who watches those games, I'm gonna be excited for him to play down there and get minutes. But how this connects to Gabe Vincent is like we have a 6'1" guard already, there, and that's already gonna be asking for minutes. Gabe looks healthy and looks healthier than he did all year last year. I think he shot like 12% from three a year ago. That's obviously not the level of shooter that he is. But like he's moving off screens well. We talked about athleticism. I think Gabe's just a smart defender. Obviously not a tall defender, but gets around screens well, chases nicely, knows how to defend, veteran, savvy, right? All that stuff you learn from Miami. His threes are going in. His floater game is there. He has a nice pick and roll chemistry, with all the bigs that are coming off. We joked Vinay all summer about like healthy Gabe Vincent, like, get that out of here. But I think it's really healthy Gabe Vincent. And I'm like wondering, what that does for this team, I guess. It's clear he's part of the 9 that that JJ has cemented into his rotation. Does healthy Gabe Vincent change the trajectory of this team? I haven't decided yet. I want to see this when the games matter, right? This is all really fun. But grades don't count yet. Teacher hasn't graded a single paper, so see how this works when the games start. I'm concerned still at a 6'1" guard that, is not athletic. But Gabe looks good, looks like an NBA player, which I think was a lot better than you can say for him last year. But I don't know how much he changes things. I'm watching Dalton and all those guys. We can get into them. But how about you? You see anything with Gabe that's like, man, that changes us from a 47 win team to like a 51 win team, right? Or anything like that.
I think he definitely brings the defensive motor and tenacity, the same way that we've been saying that Max has a level of athleticism that you can notice. Gabe has that. Yeah, I think the easiest way is that he's a dog. Like he's got that dog
right
in him, sort of kind of defensive mentality, the same way Vando does. So I think he brings that edge to the team when he's healthy and able to do what he does. Like you said, he's 6'1", so he's not a big dude, but he'll get into your space. Like he's not a guy that just allows you to get to where you want to go without picking up a foul or trying to strip you on the way there or whatever it may be. So I think that is always beneficial, especially in the regular season when you do have games where you don't want to get caught in a shootout. So you need somebody to draw a line in the sand somewhere. And Gabe strikes me as the type of guy to do stuff like that. If he's knocking down shots, Raj, I mean, he's not going to take a ton of shots, maybe 5 at the most a game, 7 at the most a game, depending on what teams we play. If he's knocking down 1 or 2 threes a game, knocking down a couple layups a game, and he's giving us great defense, I think that makes a big difference for this Lakers team, especially off the bench.
So last year, if you remember, when we signed Gabe, right, and that feels like 20 years ago, but we signed Gabe off of a finals run, just came off finals, so started that whole finals run for, I believe, injured Tyler Hero, if I'm remembering that correctly. I believe Tyler Hero was out for that run. But yeah, Gabe Vincent was a starter, and he was signed really, Vinay, as D'Lo insurance, right? Kind of, when D'Lo has his inexplicable shooting nights where he can't throw a pea into the ocean, and obviously that compounds but not being able to defend, you could throw Gabe Vincent out there. I'm still kind of looking forward to that, not as D'Lo insurance, more like Austin and Gabe guard units, right? That's something I was really excited about when we signed Gabe. I think both of them, Gabe, I think, is a better structural defender, but I think both of them hit on what you're talking about. Very chippy, right?
Yeah.
Very much accepting of contact. Not only do they accept contact, they look for it, right? They don't just brush around the screen. They try to go through it. They draw a lot of offensive fouls because of that. It's just stuff like that. Very physical guards. I think when you're short, you can't be short and soft's not the word, but you're not really, into contact. I think both of those guards really do that well. So I'm excited. I hope Gabe's fully healthy. He looks right. All his quotes coming out are yeah, I could barely move last year, which is like, why were you playing then? You know what I mean? Like,
Dude, dude, some of that stuff, man. I don't know what's going on with organizations sometimes, but yeah, it's just like what, like, and then I had, like the Vando. Well, we don't have to touch on the Vando thing, but it's just like, oh, Vando had 2 procedures, and the Lakers
oh
knew about
man,
it, and we did nothing, and he might not
yeah.
be back on time. It's just like, well, what? How did we know this is gonna happen?
Yeah,
But
why am
yeah,
I finding this out now? But no, I just looked it up. Reeves and Gabe only played 10 games together last season,
yeah,
so like not really much numbers to go off of. Those 10 games were very much a ghost of Gabe Vincent. That was a carcass of what he actually is. But yeah, I'm interested to see like what he looks like. I think at least Vinay, it's a talent ad. Like
yeah,
for
for sure.
if nothing else, it's a talent ad of a player that earned the MLE a year ago, or yeah, a year ago. So
Yeah.
no, looking forward to what he looks like. But he looks good in preseason. Like I think that's fair. He's looked good so far. Looks healthy, and we'll see what he looks like when the season starts.
That's fair. So the Lakers started off that Bucks game running some of their constructed actions, their
Mm,
designed actions, and then after a little bit of time, we went right back to 80 post-ups on the
mm,
left block. Not post-ups, but face-ups and the isolation basketball they like to do. I don't think the Lakers are going to be a team that runs like 80% of their offense through structured calls or just play call like JJ's calling a play every single time it comes down. I think there's going to be a very healthy amount of, hey, you can go do what you want to go do. Like we'll get you your touches and we'll give you those isolations to Rui, to LeBron. I think Braun did that. A lot of Braun scoring has been off of that kind of stuff.
mm.
Just him picking his spot early, finding the mismatch, and just going early. AD doing that. Uh, he looked rough against the Bucks. He looked good in other situations, but he looked a little rough against the Bucks because his jump shots weren't falling down in games like that. Is there a way around that, Raj? Do you think so? I do agree with fans who think that JJ is much more structured. Will do much more play calling. He won't leave guys out there. He won't allow everybody to have a green light. It'll be if this play is designed for specific people, he'll do what he does. But what happens if the ISO stuff isn't good? Like, do you think JJ has the ability and the buy-in to go to AD and be like, it's not your night. Why don't we do this instead?
So with Milwaukee, just a little bit what they did, and this happens to teams who run a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sophisticated action, right? Is that teams switch everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's obviously it's other teams that can. Minnesota doesn't really switch as much, but Milwaukee switches a lot. They switch 1 through 4 pretty much. So that leads to a lot of isolation shots, right? A lot of Rui had some step back jumpers he had to take. AD is kind of in that basket as well. But I hope he never goes to AD with that. Like I think AD needs to be encouraged to shoot more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost to the point that I don't even care about the threes anymore. Like
Yeah.
I've kind of given up the hope on that three ball coming anything with consistency. I think the first play of every game being a pick and pop to AD for three is just a turnover. That I don't know if that's mean, but like it's a three that's short every single time.
I saw, not to interrupt you, Roger. I saw a tweet
Yeah.
that somebody posted. I don't know who it was, if it was a Laker fan or if it was somebody else, but somebody had literally posted the question: when AD takes a 3-point shot, what do you think the defense is thinking? Like when
Thank
he's
you.
taking, yeah. Like I was just like, yeah. If I was just on the opposing side and he attempts a three, I'd be like, oh, that's great. Like we didn't have to do
Yeah.
any work on this possession.
You win the defensive possession, right? Like that's kind of what that means. If AD takes a step back, it's kind of like when LeBron takes it. I mean, honestly, like at least when LeBron, even still to this day, if you can force LeBron to take a three, like you kind of won your
Yeah.
defensive possession. He shot 41% from three last year. LeBron fans don't come at me. I'm just saying like what a defense
Yeah, Raj
is
said that, not
thinking.
me. So don't
Yeah,
don't be in my
what
DMs
a
getting mad at me. All right, Raj
what
said
a what
that.
a what a defender thinks when he gives LeBron a lane and he decides to take it. It's like, all right, thank you. Like you kind of done my job for me. But I think the AD like mid range stuff is super important. He had
Yeah.
3 of them in the Milwaukee game. All 3 were over Brook Lopez. He also cooked this guy in the second half that he should not have been playing against. Don't know what his name was, but there's some guy playing. But yeah, I thought his mid range was at least it went in it a little bit, and I think that's more important, Renee, than the threes for AD. But no, there's no working around that. I think like go around the league. It's just your stars need to be able to score on their defender. Like there's no going. There's no way around that. Like they just have to. Like you're playoff basketball or regular season basketball, when the minutes matter, teams are locked in, and you're not getting a lot of crazy open looks. It's just you have to be able to create off the bounce, and I think AD still has that in them. Even if you take away the three ball, at least make the free throw line jump shot a threat, Vinay, right? At least make the floater game a threat. It's when AD locks himself into the restricted area, it's like you're not getting many shots. So there's no way around it. I also don't hope that's a scenario that happens. I don't think JJ is that type of coach either. That's gonna go to AD and be like, stop shooting. I don't really see that. But yeah, where you at with that? I guess the idea. I don't think you're getting away from isolation basketball. I don't think you have to. But I've liked a little bit more of. We've kind of joked about AD as the fulcrum, but I think you're kind of seeing what JJ means by that, at least, of kind of a little bit more of, instead of all of the action in the post, kind of extended elbow type stuff where teams work around players and screens, work around him. But yeah, it looks fine. I don't think the 3-point jumper ever is coming back anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming back. He's been taking it with confidence. Like as soon as he gets the ball, he takes the three. He's not thinking about the three. That's been like the most noticeable thing about the threes that he's taken. But Raj, I actually don't know. Like I'm not sure how JJ approaches that, because that was one of the things that was I was talking to some of the writers. Like that was one of the things that Ham was like supposed to be his thing, which was he would hold LeBron and AD accountable when they weren't doing things.
Right.
And the word was he didn't. He didn't hold LeBron and AD accountable. He held all the other guys accountable around him. As we know with the benchings and all that sort of stuff. But he never did actually hold LeBron and AD accountable. And I don't know if JJ has that same rep as a guy like that. But I would think that JJ is enough of an a-hole to say it in nicer words that like, hey, AD, like we're not knocking down shots right now. Let's get to the rim. Like something like that. Like that's the way I would say it. Like, we're chasing the jump shot. Like the tournament I played in, one of the guys that I played with was a great jump shooter, mid-range jump shooter. But like one of the games he was playing, he just kept missing them. Like he kept going long, and he kept trying to go for them. And I just told him, I was just like, you're chasing this. Like you're trying to chase this jump shot when you don't have to. Just go to the rim. Like you can still get your guy to the rim. And that's the way I would think JJ would tell AD, like, you're still a world-class scorer, dude. You don't need this jump shot tonight. Just go and take him to the rim. So I'm curious to know if that happens, because that requires a lot of buy-in from like the star player. And that dynamic is very interesting to me. But I think there's still going to be a lot of teams out there that think the way that you and I do, which is this dude can't shoot long twos or threes, like he used to. We'll just overpack the paint every time he touches the ball and dare him to do something like that. So like, does he take the bait? Does the coach step in? What happens from there? Or does JJ call actions? Call specific actions to get him better looks.
Yeah, and again, I think with AD, whether the shot goes in or not, it's like a confidence thing. Like I know we blame the coaches for this, and I think that's kind of the reactionary position mostly. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just, why didn't you get AD any shots? It's like, well, I mean, like there's some accountability that goes on the player as well, somewhat in these instances, right? Like I think AD didn't have a shot in the fourth quarter for like
that was gonna be my next question. If we get more games where AD doesn't shoot in the second half or doesn't shoot as much in the second half,
I think that's like straight math though, right? Like if you look, not straight math, but like it's just, if you look at AD shots, and if all your shots, Vinay, come inside the paint, and that's the most efficient shot in basketball, then teams are going to take that away the most. Sure. And so if you're not taking shots outside the paint, you're not getting up 20 shots a game. Like I don't know a single player in the league that's able to get up 20 shots a game that only shoots in the paint, right? You're like, it's going to be very tough. So that's why I feel like, again, the three I've kind of lost hope for. Maybe in a few years, I don't know. I think the mid-range game is still there. It's obviously something that still is muscle memory for him. You could tell when the dribble moves start, right? He starts feeling kind of the swagger of that and is able to kind of hit those. I think that's more important to this game. And I'm hoping JJ is kind of emphasizing that, like, hey, go get your mid-range pull-up, hit the jab step mid-range shot. He took a fadeaway, dribbling into the lane, fading jumper that went in. I think there's an array of shots he has that like goes away when the confidence isn't there, which makes sense. Like, Vinay, if you haven't shot in 20 real game minutes and now the game's tight because we gave up a lead,
Hmm.
right? And like AD's like, don't give me the basketball now. Like I haven't touched the ball in 20
Yeah,
minutes, and now
fair.
you want me to beat a big bruising guy at the 5 to the rim, like where I'm not getting the call. So like I think that's where the kind of passiveness comes. Passive is probably not the right word, but like just where that uh refusal to shoot, I guess, comes from. But yeah, I don't think there's anywhere around that. Like AD likes isolation basketball. That's not a that's how he wants to score. And I think you have to run what your stars want to run. But I don't think there's any way around teams playing one on one with their stars.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's entirely fair. I'm going to be very curious to see how they manage some of those things. 'Cause we had a lot of games where that was sort of one of those things where like AD would just kind of disappear in the fourth. He'd get no
Hmm.
touches, or in the second half he'd be like just kind of loafing around and whatnot. So I'll be interested to see how it goes. One other guy I want you to give me 5 minutes about how happy you are, or not 5 minutes. Give me 2 minutes about how happy you are and how noticeable Jalen Hood-Schifino's confidence is in those pull-up mid-range shots that he's been
Yeah.
taking. He's looked very confident taking them.
Yeah, like so that's like his bread and butter, and I do think there's a level of like he needs to extend his range at some point. Like he's just probably never gonna be able to just have the ball all the time. But I'm saying, Vinay, like these guards that come in so young, you have to kind of give them some time to kind of marinate and get used to NBA physicality. And JHS is another guy where if you put a microphone in front of his face, he's like, man, I wasn't healthy last year, so I'm not like so you look at him play now, there's a level of physicality. He still makes some mistakes, but yeah, the mid range looks good. I think that's an NBA level shot. That's a NBA level skill. That's something that someone can come off the bench, and if they can hit that shot, boosts in offense. Well, his passing reads are still kind of not to the NBA speed level yet, which makes sense. Doesn't have much NBA experience under him, but no, it's fun watching him. I think JHS is going to play a little bit more with South Bay again. I would predict just with how the rotation looks, with the amount of guards we have. But no, it's been fun, man. It's been cool to seeing people like at me like, hey, JHS is not the worst play. I'm like, man, like come on, man. Like obviously he wasn't like, but yeah, it's been cool watching him. We didn't get into Dalton in this pod, but like Dalton looks. I'm enjoying watching Dalton Connect play. It looks like a legit first rounder that we found. Didn't shoot well in Milwaukee. I think he missed the game. Oh no, we won that game, but the previous game he missed like the game tying 3 or whatever it was. But our rookies look good, man. It's fun having young guys that like you can root for and hopefully watch develop. But no, JHS, it's been fun. People are starting to hop on the island. Vinay, it's been cool. There's been electricity on this island for a long time. Just seeing a few people hop on has been fun for sure.
Yeah. I was gonna say we're not allowing people on the island. You have to
Yeah,
stay off the island now. You
yeah,
have to watch
yeah.
us. Buy your cruise ship tickets, and you can wave at us
Right.
from the cruise.
It,
You don't get to join
exactly.
us here.
Raising
Um,
prices.
Gabe Island, Gabe Vincent Island, and JHS Island, and there's a lot of
Right.
islands.
A lot
Last
of
year was a little
islands.
rough.
Yeah.
There might be Raj. There might be a Cam Reddish Island.
Oof.
If JJ is able to work some magic there, in regards to it.
Yeah.
So there was Jeannie did a pod with, I think she went on Dwight's pod, and there's a little
Mm.
blurb that came out on the timeline of them talking about how his thing went, and this is like a rehash topic, so we don't have to do too much on it. But basically, just him talking about how Lakers didn't have a contract for him, and after he won a championship, or after they won the championship, and Jeannie just flat out tells him that's just not true. That's not what happened. And then I think Dwight like goes in this direction where he's like, "Oh, my agent lied to me, and then that's why I took the." She says that you took
Mm.
the offer with Philly. I think when I asked about it in like the back channels, like the whole thing was like they had a contract for him. They just had to make sure it was cleared all the way through the chain of command because it's a official, like you can't just offer contracts verbally. Like you have to actually make sure it's approved, and whatnot. I guess Dwight spun it as his agent lied to him about something. That's
Hmm.
why he took the Philly deal. And then he started serenading Jeannie to bring him back. My question to you, Raj, is would you bring Dwight Howard back, considering the situation that we're in? Let's say we find somebody to take, Cam or
Mm.
some minimum salary player that we're okay with moving. Would you consider giving Dwight Howard? I think he's like 40 years old now. I don't know how old he is, but give him a
That's what
chance.
I'm looking at while you you finish talking. I would like 99% no. He's 38. Yeah, it's just I don't think so. Did Dwight even play in the league last year? No, right? I don't think Dwight was in
No,
the
I think he
NBA.
was in Taiwan or the China
Right.
Basketball
Yes. Yes.
Association, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not in the NBA. Dwight. By the way, like again, all these. There's a lot of players in the NBA that like I did not think would just kill it in the podcast
Yeah.
game. Nothing against Dwight. I didn't see him in that, but great pod. Somehow got Jeannie Buss on there
Yeah.
to come and speak on this. Again, like I don't know how much Jeannie was involved in that exact situation. How
Yeah.
I remember it was like Dwight tweeted out, "I'm coming back with the Lakers,"
Yeah.
and then the Lakers went and got Montrezl Harrell and Marcus Gasol, and that was kind of it. And Dwight went to Philly, and and then we obviously returned for the
Yeah.
following year. Much older, much less athletic, much
Yeah. He
less.
had back issues. I think his back
Yeah,
issues flared up again.
yeah. I mean, he's an older player, right? But yeah, no, I wouldn't. And I remember that a little differently as well. I remember Dwight said something about he wanted a guaranteed deal, so like he was not going to do this guarantee me in December. Whenever we guaranteed
Yeah.
his deal that year, I don't remember when it was. But in any case, yeah, there was obviously maybe some miscommunication. I don't think Jeannie's the one Dwight's upset about. So like I think there's the other guy running the team. And Dwight's spoken about this candidly. He's like, Rob, why'd you do that, Rob? Why'd you break us up?
Oh man, bro, that guy
Um,
Rob Pelinka seems to keep showing up. People asking, "Where are you, Rob?" So it'll be interesting. Yeah, I don't think I'd bring back Dwight. We should definitely try to go younger, and find a
yes.
group that's much more complementary. Um, and then I do want to get to some of the questions that we
Yeah,
have in the chat,
let's do the
Raj.
questions. Yeah.
So, but I do want to ask you one last opinion.
Mhm.
One last opinion. Um, it is very clear the Lakers are going to have, Shams has kind of reported that there's going to be a moment for Bronny and Braun to hit the floor together.
Mm,
You and I have both, I think, in the DMs. We might have also talked about it in the pod. I know we talked about it in the group chat. They're going to get that out of the way. That's a
mhm.
thing that really is going to happen. And I've seen some backlash on the timeline about that, and what it is. And my only thought about that is like you knew you knew Rich Paul was sending Bronny to the Lakers. You knew it was a dream of LeBron to bring Bronny to the team. It is a very historic moment for him. And more importantly, I think it's just something fans forget sometimes is Jeannie also cares about that aspect of it too. Like Jeannie cares about the fact that LeBron is going to get a chance to play with his son, have this moment with his son. I think LeBron's pay cut kind of aligned a little bit with, the money that Bronny got that was fully guaranteed that helped kind of alleviate some of the tax burden or the hard cap, helped us stay under the hard cap. I think all that stuff matters to the Lakers organization, that they take care of their star. I know Braun
Sure.
had those tweets about that Ramona Shelburne thing about like, part of the reason why he came to LA. I didn't want to touch that stuff because it's just like, it's Braun's word versus mine. But I do think there is a part of it to every player, not just LeBron, that the Lakers did take care of Kobe even after he tore his Achilles. I don't think that goes unnoticed. But aside from that, I think this is a very nice moment for the NBA. It's a nice moment for LeBron, and I think it's a thing that Jeannie wants to allow the fan base, the Braun fans, the James family to like experience. And it's very cool that they're
Sure.
doing it in a Laker jersey. I don't think it's a big deal. Like he's just gonna get on the court with his dad. Like it's
Yeah.
okay. I don't think that's a big deal at all.
I don't think like I don't know why we have to sell it as like I don't know, be nice with this, but like that, it's because Bronny can come guard, whoever's playing in the game
Yeah,
at the time. Like it's okay. This is scripted and it's fine. Like it's okay. This is
it's
something
okay.
that it's a beautiful story and like Lakers are all about storytelling and it is an awesome story.
Yeah,
Do most 55th picks play with this level of like basketball that they've shown? Probably not. But like most 55th picks, dads aren't LeBron James. So like you
yeah,
don't get to like this is just how this goes. I think there's also a way to do this, Vinay, where like you can't do this when the Lakers are getting their butt kicked. Like this has got
I
to be
agree.
done like in a way that makes sense, right? It can't be in an embarrassing moment. It can't be Minnesota can't start this game 18-2 and then you throw in Bronny like to play with
Yeah,
LeBron. Like that fans are not going to be cool with that. Like
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I see comment here, it won't be nice if the team is losing. Of course not, which is why
Yeah,
like this is getting done early. It's getting in some minute of the game that it's obviously every minute is meaningful, but it's insignificant to the entire portion. Some end of quarter. Hopefully, best case, honestly, is the Lakers are up 20, garbage time. Get
that'd be the
Vinay,
best.
not Vinay, excuse me, Vinay. Get Bronny and LeBron minutes
Yeah,
together. And that would be best case. You're probably not blowing out Minnesota. I
yeah.
checked our schedule today. We're not having many blowouts anytime soon. So
No, I mean, who
it-
knows? Who knows? Maybe the Lakers are like, but maybe Braun's
right,
like super motivated to like get
right,
that moment early
yeah,
on. But yeah,
yeah. But
we
it's
can't be
getting
down
done early.
30 doing that.
No, you
Yeah,
can't be down 30. If it's like second unit comes in, tie game, like Bronny plays with the second unit and LeBron, I could see something like that. But yeah, it's not really a big deal to me. I think he'll get it done, and then Bronny will come and play in South Bay and hopefully get his reps there and do all that. But big
yeah,
story. It's going to continue to be until they get this done. It's going to continue to be asked. It's going to continue to be pestered. Coach is going to be asked.
yep.
LeBron's going to be asked. So it's just a nice story, and I think we can leave it there. I don't think we have to go deeper into Bronny's playing and he shot 20% from three. None of that matters.
Doesn't matter.
That has nothing to do with this. This is
Just
a
give it.
cool
Yeah,
moment. Yeah.
it is a Hollywood moment. I always do think back to the Kobe's last game. Like the
Mm,
players on the floor were going out of their way to give Kobe the ball every single possession because they wanted him to get. They didn't care about his shooting percentages. They didn't care whether they went one or a
mm-mm.
loss. It was awesome that we won that game, but they just wanted him to just go out shooting. That was like what
Yep.
Kobe was known. Kobe was known to do, and he gave us a Hollywood ending. And no Laker fan cared at all about his shooting efficiency at the end of that. And it was a really great moment. And I think LeBron has earned that equity with this franchise, our franchise, as well as
Yep.
just the franchise with the NBA to have that moment. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just don't know why people are trying to make it more than what it is. And so, but it's Bronny. So it gets a lot of clicks. But Raj, I just want to ask you about that because I know there was a little bit of annoyance from some folks about it. I don't think it's a basketball thing. I think it's just a nice family thing.
I mean,
Jeannie
like
cares about that kind of stuff.
last thing I'll say is like, do you think Thanasis was on the Bucks because he can play? Like, no, he's not. No, like Thanasis was an awful. Excuse my language, but he's an awful basketball player. Like, he's just
Yeah.
not good. J.R. Smith's brother, I think, got signed with the Knicks.
Chris
Like, while he
Smith.
was
Yeah.
like, yeah. So it's just like there's precedent to this. This is obviously a bigger story because LeBron's still, LeBron James and
Yeah.
face of the league. I just, there's this happens around the NBA.
Yeah.
Just not to this level.
All right, let's hit some of these questions. I'm gonna hit.
Yeah.
I want to ask one that was in the Discord from Jordan Santiago. He's in our
Mm.
Discord. He asked it last time. I forgot to bring it up. So one of the questions he asked was, given the current roster, how can the Lakers make AD play up a touch more and not just be on drop coverage?
Yeah, I mean that kind of depends on who the guard is, right? I think like if it's D'Lo or Austin's kind of better at this, but if it's D'Lo, he's a little bit slower getting around screens, and so it's kind of tougher for AD to be at the touch or at the level of the ball screen, and that pretty much turns into a switch.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to see like how they try to get him involved in that. I think they want AD switching a little bit more. A way to do that, Vinay, is by playing two bigs. So like
Yeah.
we've experimented with that. Like I was been an advocate of this since last year. Is like play Jackson Hayes with him. I know Jackson Hayes isn't the most aesthetically pleasing player to watch sometimes, but super athlete, right? Can jump out the gym, rebound, and protect the rim in some capacity. That's how you do it to me. Like you can have AD switch a lot more when you're switching 1 through 4. When you're switching 1 through 5, you don't want AD away from the basket because then teams just put him on the corner. But I think that's how I see it. Where are you at with that?
Yeah.
I guess idea. That's the only way to me that you can do that on this team.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the only way it works is if you have a second big that's dedicated to protecting the rim should the ball get swung around away from AD and somebody tries to attack. And then more importantly, if you have a guy who's like a really good dedicated defensive rebounder behind him, like you have to have that rebounding. And this is an extreme example. But in the Olympics, they had Bam Adebayo behind him, and he was cleaning up the defensive glass when AD was getting pulled out to the perimeter. So obviously, you're not going to find a guy that caliber available, but
Right.
if you can find a blue collar guy who's willing to do that, Hayes is the best example for now. I think the Lakers were hoping that Christian Wood would be that kind of role player. He's a decent rebounder. That's what you're looking for. I think that's the only way it works. I wouldn't even say the guards matter at that point. I think it's more about the back, like who's protecting AD from being able to be aggressive in that position.
For sure. I've liked the Max AD kind of combination as a defensive combo. Max gives a lot of back pressure because he has length and can kind of be an athlete and bother you. But yeah, that's the only way really. I just think our other guards are too small and just aren't as athletic to have AD being that high, because it just compromises everything else, right? You have the big man rolling, you have the guy who's going to have to tag, and that opens up the 3-point shooters in the corners, which JJ has talked about, wants to limit those. So it's going to be tough for AD to be at the touch.
So this question was asked a little bit earlier. Is our starting five still good enough? It was when we were having that discussion about D'Lo versus Austin in the starting lineup. Is our starting five still good enough at shooting threes without D'Lo in it? So if we send D'Lo to the bench, keep Austin in the starting lineup so that we can play Max Christie, are we still good enough of a 3-point shooting team, in your opinion?
I would say probably not. I mean, like, you look at our volume shooting, D'Lo takes 7 or 8 threes and hit him at like a 40% clip last year. That's just that's very tough to duplicate. Like, they want Austin shooting more threes. I just don't think Austin's getting to 7 or 8 threes a game. Like, I don't see that. Rui's his threes depend very much on how open he is, and the other guy's LeBron. To me, that's not enough. And Max Christie is like the question mark. I still don't think Max is going to get up 8-9 threes a game. It's just not. He's not getting that many looks at a time. I would say no. At least in the regular season, I would say no. That's why I disagree with you. I think D'Lo as a starter makes more sense. But how about you? Where are you getting these 3-point shots if you move D'Lo to the bench?
Yeah, I don't. I do agree. I think it's a great question. I don't think our 3-point shooting is good enough to answer the question directly. Is it still good enough at shooting threes without D'Lo in it? No, probably not, because he is essentially our best 3-point shooter that we're taking out. But it is, I will say, it is a risk I am willing to take for what the defensive floor of that unit could be. If it leads to more transitional, we get stops and leads to more transitional buckets. If we're not allowing the other team to score as easily, is super helpful. We're a better rebounding team. And again, I've had this thing, and we can talk about it at a different time. Like, JJ joked about taking like 50 threes a game or 40 plus threes a game. Right. I think you and I have discussed this before. That's very hard to do when your best two players don't take threes at a high volume themselves. Like, the best two players on the Lakers do not take threes at a very high volume. You rarely see teams take threes at that high of an amount, and their best players are like the most ball dominant players on their team aren't taking those threes too as well. So like, if Braun was shooting 6, 7, 8, AD was shooting 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there, then I'd be like, okay, we can hit that number. But the Lakers are entirely relying on their role players to carry that volume. So I don't think they're into it, like, philosophically, but we'll see what JJ wants to do. That would be my answer.
So last thing on that, D'Lo's not just our best 3-point shooter; he's our like best pull-up jump shooter.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
I think that matters. Like, in a league where how the ball screens are defended, like, you need a guy you need to be able to shoot off the bounce. There's no way around that. Look at all the teams around the league; just everyone has at least one guy. Jamal Murray in Denver, obviously Luka and Kyrie both do that. Phoenix, Devin Booker, and KD both do that. Right? These are elite jump shooters. Lakers don't have that, which to me it means you have to you can still obviously build a contender offense around that. It's just got to be different than what the league is going. Like, we can't copy Boston. Like, that's not we just don't have the personnel to do that. So, but no, I don't think we have enough shooting without D'Lo to answer his question.
Yeah. So the next question that we have here was it looks like it's a trade question from Cisco. A D'Lo trade. It sounds like it's just a straight up trade here. D'Lo for Capella. Would you do that trade?
I would definitely think about it. I like Capella, and I haven't watched the Hawks. He's still on the Hawks, right? I haven't watched the Hawks, enough, so I'm not sure how he's doing over there. That's a center that I would be interested in. I don't know what his money looks like going forward and all that.
It's about even. I think he's also expiring. It's
expiring. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if he's playing well, if he's healthy, that's something I would definitely consider for sure. That's the type of trade I would look for. Big center, kind of knows his role. Smart defensive center. Something I would definitely take a look at. How about you? Where you at with Capella for D'Lo?
Yeah, I guess you could do it. The only way I pitched it was like if you know that you can get him on an extension the following year for like cheaper, like
Mm,
then you could do that. And I would only do it if I knew for sure I was going to lose D'Lo for nothing. So this would have to be like a deal like at the
trade
11th
deadline.
hour of the trade deadline. Yeah, it wouldn't be something I would do in December if I was
Sure.
shopping D'Lo around. Since we're on that topic real fast, that same trade that I proposed to you before, let's say it's a stripped down version of that trade. We don't get Trey Mann anymore from Charlotte. Charlotte doesn't have any room for Grant Williams,
Mm,
but they are willing to move Nick Richards. Let's say you go to Charlotte, and you say, look, we'll give you D'Lo, maybe toss in a second round pick because Nick Richards I don't think he was like a high pick or something like that for them. I think Nick Richards has some ties to Austin's agent too as well, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you
40
go to
seconds.
him and you say, all right, we'll give you D'Lo, we'll give you a second round pick. We'll take on Grant Williams extra money because I think he has an extra year or two. Take on Grant Williams extra money and Nick Richards. Do you do that trade?
Oof.
If tomorrow Charlotte comes
Oh,
to you
I
and
see.
says, give us D'Lo and a second, and we will take, and you have to take back Grant and Nick Richards. Do you do that trade?
Oof. I probably don't do that tomorrow, but I probably do that at the deadline.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I do that tomorrow. By the way, Nick Richards, 42nd pick for Charlotte. So
Second round pick. Yeah. So they
yeah,
would get back a second round pick.
basically get that second round pick. Yeah, that's interesting. Grant Williams has a way of like losing whatever locker room he's into for some,
Which is fair. Which is fair. But
for
again,
some
my
reason.
logic is Vando is not here. Like we
Mm,
need a body that's other than Rui to be in that position. Like he's gonna Grant will stand in the corner and shoot those open threes that you sent to him. He won't get in
yep.
the way of that. Might be an annoying guy to have around in the locker room, but if you can tolerate it for a little bit, stopgap.
Yeah, he's a competitor. Like I don't think anyone's like taking that away. He's obviously a dude that's very much into the fight of it. It just somehow
Yeah.
loses whatever.
He has some
And
main
he had.
character syndrome, I think. Like he
Yeah,
tries to like make himself the center of attention
yeah,
when he's on the board sometimes.
exactly. But honestly, if you had to ask me, Renee, like if I would bet if you're getting a better offer than that for D'Lo this year, I'd probably say no. I don't think
Mhm.
I don't think you're getting a better offer than that this year for D'Lo for Grant and Nick Richards. So definitely something to think about.
Yeah, yeah. Next question that we have is, well, it's not a question; it's actually a comment from BDA Pink. This was again about the Austin versus D'Lo in the starting lineup. D'Lo maximizes AD though. Is that true, Raj? Do you think D'Lo maximizes AD?
I don't know if maximize is the right word, but he definitely looks for AD in a way that like I think I don't think Austin does in the same way. And I think they do have nice chemistry, especially in those side ball screen actions. That's definitely something where they like working together with. And I think that just makes my point. Like I think D'Lo and AD is an offense. Like I don't know how great an offense that is, but it's an offense that the Lakers can kind of run to the side and kind of get good shots out of in a way that others can't. But how about you? Where you at with that? I don't think maximizes is correct, but I think he does help kind of push AD towards shots.
Yeah, I think D'Lo is very good at getting AD the ball. Like if the play
Mm,
is to get AD the ball or run whatever you have to run to get AD the ball, and like the end result has to be AD's taking the shot at the end of it. I think D'Lo is very good at that. I think him and Braun are probably the best at doing that. I think Austin does call his own number sometimes and sort
mhm.
of looks off AD to some degree, which I think is also a good thing. But that's mainly
Sure.
because I think sometimes AD doesn't want to take those shots or he's just kind of zoned out offensively. And so we need Austin to do stuff like that. So I do that. I do agree with what you were saying, though. I don't know if he maximizes AD. I'm very curious to see if the play calling maximizes AD. If JJ's calling stuff that gets sent to him. So that'd be interesting. And then I think the last question we have here, Raj, is it's from Ernest because we were discussing the defensive thing. If Ben Simmons looks good as the season goes on, would you make a move for him to shore up the defensive guard position? I think defensive wing position is probably what he means. I will answer that first.
Yeah.
Not at $40 million or $35 million, whatever he's getting paid right now. I'm certainly not doing that. If he like happened to get waived or he got like traded to another team and then he got waived by that team and
Bought
he was
out.
like, yeah, bought out. And if he looks good, I mean, if he looks better, I'm sure a lot other teams will take a flyer on him. But if the Lakers had an inside track and he wanted to come to LA to kind of rebuild the brand or whatever for himself for a bigger contract, I certainly would.
Yeah.
If it's at like a vet min, I think he gives you all the stuff that Vando gives you. Obviously, he's afraid to shoot the ball. That's an issue. But you do get a lot of ball handling. You get like real ball handling and passing and playmaking from Ben also too as well. I think that's something that people forget about what he used to be good at.
No, number one, I think the LA spotlight is the worst place in the world for Ben Simmons to be right now.
For sure, yeah.
I can't imagine a worse place to try to recoup whatever basketball real estate you had. Number two, I'm dying on this hill. If Ben Simmons is still this Ben Simmons after this season, the reclamation project contract is being given out this summer. Like, there's just no way Ben Simmons is not a Laker. We have all these minimums coming off the books, Renee. I can't imagine Ben Simmons is not getting at least a training camp invite or some type of
for sure.
deal. There's just too much talent to, at least there was talent in there. So yeah, you know how you weren't doing this on purpose, but you just kind of brushed over that he doesn't want to shoot. Like, that's fine if like you're very into your identity, but like basketball is very much a world where like how you do something is how you do everything. Like, you know what I mean? So a player who just refusing to shoot is a very tough player to accommodate. I don't care how great defensively you are. That's just how the world works. The basketball will always find you when you want it the least, is kind of how, you know, the basketball gods work. So no, obviously at that number, no. If he gets bought out, I don't see it. Again, and you already have Vando on the team, so I think there's a lot of repetitive talent there. I hope the best for him. He's talking like he's the old Ben Simmons, which I just don't understand either.
I think he's made like $150 million or $200 million. So I would hope that he's not hurting for money.
But like, what does putting your cart before the horse do for him? Nothing against it. It's just he came out and said people forgot like when I'm healthy what I look like. It's like, man, it's been 3 years.
I know. Like, I know how good Brandon Roy looked really good when he was healthy, and so did Derrick Rose. He looked really good when he was healthy too. But I mean, injuries are part. Greg Oden looked great, but injuries are just kind of a part of the game too as well. So we can't just like base it a bit on like when you're healthy.
You know, the issue is, Vinay, is like he still posts his summer like hitting threes. Like, it's just
right. I think players do that because there's like legitimately people out there that like they're just trying to like bamboozle into thinking that they've changed their ways and stuff like that. We didn't have this as a topic, but one guy that I am genuinely rooting for is Lonzo. Like I genuinely hope his body is able to stay healthy. He is one of I used to think that he was like a Jason Kidd type point guard with the way he used to read the floor, and he used to share the ball and process how to process defensive coverages. I really, really hope he does well, because I think he represents a generation, and I see this with like Tyrese Halliburton. He represents like a generation of point guards that are really great floor generals. Like, they really, like, people want to play with guys like him. So I really hope he has like a comeback season and he does really well. And if he wants to reclaim, if he stays healthy and he needs a spot, I think we'd welcome him back in LA if his knees can hold up.
Absolutely. I don't think you're getting anywhere near him. Like, the Bulls just invested 2 injury years in him, so I'm sure they want some fruit of that, just from the business side. And I would love to see it. Like, Lonzo, we'll see what he is this year. But you're right, that point guard's kind of gone. The point guard that's very much a facilitator, that's like, I don't care about my shots, I'm hitting the ball every time. Like, that guard is kind of pushed out the league. It's kind of like a Tyus Jones, who's even more offensively.
Who's bringing it back? Who's going to bring it back? That kid that we watched in summer league that the Spurs drafted, that Stephon Castle kid.
Oh, Stephon Castle. Okay.
That kid is like, I don't know if you watch any of the preseason stuff. He is like, he walks on the court and moves and plays, and his attitude, his body language is like, oh, I already know I'm going to dominate whoever's in front of me. So
really, okay.
just give me like, I think they brought in CP3 to help mentor him a little bit about how he reads the floor. But just watching him in preseason, I was like, oh, this might be like he might quietly become a very impactful player, especially on the defensive side because he's got it. But I think that type of point guard is coming back. I think like we got the shooting point guards like
Mhm.
Dame, Steph, Trey. Like they're still great creators. They're still, but their ability to shoot the ball is a big thing. And I think you're getting guys like Tyrese Halliburton, like real floor generals, reads the floor really well. Lonzo, I think the Stephon Castle kid's going to be like that too as well. But we'll see, man. We'll see what happens. Rod, did you have any last thoughts that you wanted to cover before we let the folks go?
I think that's it. I was just like last name I remember because we just watched him was Rob Dillingham just came in. And it's like
Yeah,
that dude shot the ball every time he got the ball. So
yeah,
there was no facilitating going on.
yeah.
But yeah, no, for sure. No, I think we covered a lot. Lakers play tomorrow. And I think you mentioned we play Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the season kicks off in a few days. A lot of injuries, Renee. A lot. We didn't get to the general
Yeah,
NBA,
yeah.
but
Hamstring injuries to a lot of players.
do 2 minutes on this because I think this is
Yeah,
interesting.
go for it.
Really quick. Joel Embiid came out and said he's not playing back to
Mm.
backs ever again. I don't know. A part of me just like as a person who grew up watching basketball, like I know it's a health thing. I know it's a load managing thing. I just obviously you want the best in health for Joel
Mhm.
Embiid. It's just
Mhm.
not playing back to backs. Like that's a tough thing for a guy who number one just signed a max deal this summer. Do I have that correctly? I think he just signed extension.
Might be. Yeah, it might be. Yeah.
Like a max extension, I believe was this summer. Yeah, the injuries. Paul George, I think, hyperextended his knee today as well. If I
Looks like it. Yeah.
didn't see that. But yeah, just any thought on kind of the injuries going around in the league? Is preseason too long? Like a minute on that.
No, I think I think what we're watching happen. So it's like not too many young guys are getting these kinds of injuries. It's more the guys that are like in their 30s
Mm,
and sort of older that are getting some of the injuries. Granted, there are definitely some young guys that get injuries. I think the game's just becoming really fast, and I don't think and I think that the new generations that keep coming in are faster and faster and stronger and more athletic and more bouncy and all that sort of stuff. And I think the older guys are like not able to keep up. Like Braun being able to stay healthy the way he has is like a damn miracle if you tell me, like if you ask me. But the speed of the game is so fast, Raj. Like everything is fast. Like you're gonna pull hamstrings when everything is fast, and you're gonna turn ankles and knock on wood, hurt your Achilles, any players, ACLs, all that kind of stuff. And any sport that becomes incredibly fast, that's usually what happens. And um, I don't know if a volume of games matters. Like I don't think 82 games is the reason why these people are getting hurt. The players are getting hurt. But I
yeah.
also don't know how to feel about not playing back to backs. I mean, to be fair, the NBA is trying to eliminate back to backs altogether, like completely. So what Embiid said may not mean anything at all. So was it like 3 games out of the year, maybe at the most, that he won't play? Like that's not really a big deal. So I don't think too much of it. So
Yeah, I think it's like I don't know exactly. I think it's like 8 or 9 if I have
oh,
that
okay,
correctly, but it's not too. It's
that
not
is a
too
significant
many.
amount of
It's
games. Yeah,
yeah, but because I think someone said it takes him out of any of those awards, right? Because like if you don't play back to back,
right.
it takes you out of the awards. Really quick, to close on it. Joel Embiid, he just signed a 3-year, $193 million extension. Like it's a guy they're investing in. Like not playing back to backs, saying that October 14th, like season hasn't even.
But he baked that in there. I bet you he didn't. It's not written in the actual contract language, but I bet you there's a handshake agreement with the GM that I'm not playing back to backs. Like, or if I play back to backs, which I think this is something that happens. If I play back to backs, I'm not going to be going like balls to the wall on that second game. Like,
Yeah.
if I need to get the All NBA honors or whatever. So I don't know, dude. It'll be interesting to see. I don't hear young guys saying that. I feel like it's the guys who have had repetitive knee injuries, or the guys that are old, like LeBron, that kind of do that. All the young guys are like, no, I'll play. Like we're playing back to backs. We gotta get the wins, playoff seeding, that sort of thing. So, but I'll be curious to see how that works out. Paul George injury is a big deal, dude. Like,
Oh yeah.
if you lose him for extended time, you're back to that's a $40 million guy that they spent money on. So it'll be interesting. Raj, since you asked about new stuff, Kawhi Leonard not practicing with the team. Has
Not
not.
ready. Nope.
He's not ready to play. Me and Raj, for the folks that don't know, not because we want to make fun of him, but I've been telling Raj, like, if Kawhi doesn't misses games for the Clippers, it could get bad really fast for them. They might he's a big part of what they do. And I love Terrence Mann and I love Norm Powell and all the guys that they have. We love Zoo. We love Big Zoo. But I don't think James Harden's replicating some of the stuff that Paul George was doing. He's a great creator. He's a great player for sure. But I think that's a very different team, different type of team. So I'll be curious to see what happens.
Yeah.
Raj, the Lakers have 3 preseason games: Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we wrap up the preseason. And we go right into the regular season, which is going to be all fireworks. We play, I think, 5 really good teams. Maybe
no
10
easy
really
ones.
good teams. We get a back-to-back. I think our second and third games are a back-to-back already or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I think we get like the Kings. The schedule makers love to screw with the Lakers.
Yeah, we do. We get Phoenix on Friday and then the Kings on Saturday. Yeah, so no breaks.
Yeah,
A
thanks,
hungry
Laker fans.
Phoenix
Make sure you
team, by the way. That looks good. Yeah, that's playing well.
Yeah, Laker fans, expect don't be shocked if we get blown out of that Kings game like we did last year, because I don't know why the schedule makers keep giving us the Kings on the second game. But we'll see what happens. But we'll see how it goes. We'll probably have another pod just wrapping up the preseason if we get any new learnings since we're getting closer to the regular season. But as always, folks, whether you're able to join us at the start or join us midway through, you can find this on any of our X accounts, the Lakers Detailed X account, or you can tune into Spotify and Apple, and I will have this video episode up so that you guys can listen in and at your leisure. And if nothing else, we appreciate you and hope you have a wonderful day or evening. See you in the next one. Take it easy.
Peace.